My best friend and husband suddenly stopped talking to each other after I pushed them to see a concert, so I confronted my best friend and what she told me made my jaw drop. Plus all updates. My husband Phil and I have been married for 4 years and are both in our early 30s. We are very happy together. He loves me a lot, but sometimes I have caught him lying to protect my feelings, which I do not really like. Dana has been my best friend since college, and we were roommates. Just to give some background about Dana, she was in a long-term relationship with her boyfriend for 3 years, but they broke up last year. He was also very insecure about Dana and controlling about who Dana hung out with. Dana's boyfriend was jealous of Phil for some reason, and they would avoid hanging out with us. However, since the breakup, Dana and I have gotten closer and spent a lot of time shopping, going out to restaurants, etc. Phil also loves to tag along with us occasionally, but not always. Phil and Dana also get along well, and Dana has told me that if I find another Phil, I need to set up a blind date between them ASAP. 1 month ago, Phil, Dana and I had planned to go to a concert in our town. Phil was excited as it was one of his favorite bands. I started feeling unwell the morning of the concert and just wanted to rest. Phil was disappointed but told me that we could offer our tickets to our friends, and we could see the band some other time. I didn't want to spoil it for him, so I called a few of my friends, and my friend Jess, a mutual friend with Dana, was happy to go to the concert at my place. Phil still wanted to cancel, but I insisted he go as I would have felt bad if he missed the concert. They all went together and enjoyed the concert. Phil kept sending me photos all night. The concert ended at 11 p.m., but I slept before that due to my medication. When I woke up in the morning, I was alone in the bed. I quickly checked my messages and Phil's last message was at 11 p.m., saying they were leaving the concert and he should be home soon after dropping Dana off. I went to the living room and Phil was sleeping on the sofa in the same clothes he wore to the concert. I waited for him to get up. I asked him about the night and when he returned home. He said that he came back home between 2 to 3 a.m. He said there were multiple accidents outside the concert venue, and the traffic was horrible. He said he dropped Dana at her place and came home directly. I asked him why he was sleeping on the sofa and he told me that he did not want to disturb me, and also was too tired to change out of his clothes. Phil had some glitter on his clothes, but that was from dancing in the crowd at the concert. So, he just crashed on the sofa and slept immediately. It seemed plausible, and Dana also confirmed the story. However, the weird behavior started after that night. Firstly, Phil stopped tagging with me when I was hanging out with Dana. He would devise the most unbelievable reasons to avoid going out with me when Dana was there. Phil has also been a bit aloof with me since that night, and I have noticed him spending a lot more time in his home office playing video games at night instead of coming to bed. 2 weeks ago, I invited Dana to our house for drinks after we went out shopping, and she also started giving reasons to avoid coming to our place. Dana has not visited our place since that day. Phil and Dana only saw each other during a house party at my friend's place last weekend. I observed their behavior, and they both avoided each other. I asked Phil why he was avoiding Dana and he said that it was just in my imagination. Dana also said the same but then started giving me bullshit reasons for not coming over to our apartment. I feel in my gut that their behavior is suspicious, but I am unsure if it's just my insecurity. How do I know what is going on? I have gone through Phil's phone multiple times, but the only messages between him and Dana are very sparse, and there have been no messages since that night. I feel something happened between them that night and both are just avoiding answering even the basic questions about why they are avoiding each other. Am I the off for assuming the worst? I really do not want to come off as insecure, but it is killing me from the inside. Update: I was briefly able to get access to Phil's phone last Friday night. I did not have time to retrieve any deleted messages. However, thanks to someone's idea, I opened his camera gallery and went through the photos he took that night. One important thing that jumped out was Dana's outfit. Dana was wearing a white shirt and denim shorts to the concert. As it was an outdoor concert, she took off her shirt and was only wearing a blue bikini top. She had some glittering fake tattoos on her shoulder and back. By the end of the night, she was again wearing her shirt. So, for the glitter to be on Phil's car seat and his clothes, Dana had to have taken her shirt off in the car. I was so angry and could not keep my cool anymore. I went and confronted Phil. He immediately broke down and started apologizing to me. He said it was his fault that he took it too far and felt very guilty all month. He said he did not want to tell me because I would have been very upset, and he just wanted to forget it. I told him to tell me what happened in detail and he did. He told me that Dana and Jess both got drunk during the concert. Phil had to hold Dana while taking her to the car. Dana slept in the car for an hour while Phil was driving. When she got up, she started playing music and singing loudly. At one point, she told Phil that it was hot in the car, and before he could lower the AC temperature, she took off her shirt. Phil said he was very uncomfortable at this point and asked Dana if it was okay if he drove to our house, and if she could sleep in the guest room, as her apartment would have added another 30 minutes to the drive. She insisted that she wanted to go home, so Phil took her home. As she got out, she asked Phil if he could walk her back to her apartment as she still felt tipsy. After she opened the apartment door, she hugged Phil and said thank you. Phil said that he was sorry that the hug lingered too long, and they had a moment. I had tears rolling down my eyes and asked him if they kissed. Phil told me, of course not, but he cannot describe it, but there was definitely a moment between them. He told me that Dana invited him in, but he immediately told Dana that he had to leave and ran to the car. I kept on asking what happened, and he just said they had a moment that he felt he could not control and just got out of there. After he came home, Dana messaged Phil that he should have come inside the apartment. Phil kept on telling Dana that it was an accident, and to forget about it. But Dana kept on asking Phil if he was attracted to her and if he had a good time. Phil told Dana that he was not attracted to her and never would be and told her not to tell me about it. She agreed, and he deleted all the messages. He said that he sat on the sofa because they had been messaging each other for a long time, and he did not want to hear it. I asked him if he could retrieve the messages, and he told me he had deleted them and also cleaned all his archives and sent messages. He just wanted to forget the incident ever happened. I showed him my post, and thanks to a comment, we went to find the messages on the SD card. Phil was right and the messages were the same as what Phil described. I am still very mad at Phil for not telling me about it in the first place. This is where it got super weird. I invited Dana for brunch yesterday and met her. I told her that I talked to Phil and he confessed to everything that happened the night before the concert. I asked her if I wanted to give her a chance to tell her side of the story. Dana immediately became defensive. The story was the same until they got to her apartment building. Dana said that she opened her apartment door. She gave Phil a long hug for a great evening. She said that could feel Phil wanted more but nothing happened beyond that. I asked her why she invited him inside the apartment. She told me that she wanted to offer him some water and a snack as he had been driving for a long time. I said that it's a really beach move to invite my husband into her apartment at 1 a.m. at night when she felt he wanted more from her than a hug. She said that I was just being jealous and crazy. We started argue. Dana slept in the car for an hour, while Phil was driving. When she got up, she started playing music and singing loudly. At one point, she told Phil that it is hot in the car, and before he could lower the AC temperature, she took off her shirt. Phil said he was very uncomfortable at this point and asked Dana if it's okay he drives to our house and she could sleep in the guest room, as her apartment would have added another 30 minutes to the drive. She insisted that she wanted to go home, so Phil took her home. As she got out, she asked Phil if he could walk her back to her apartment as she still felt tipsy. After she opened the apartment door, she hugged Phil and said thank you. Phil said that he was sorry that the hug lingered too long, and they had a moment. I had tears rolling down my eyes and asked him if they kissed. Phil told me of course not, but he cannot describe it, but there was definitely a moment between them. He told me that Dana invited him in, but he immediately told Dana that he had to leave and made a run to the car. I kept on asking what happened, and he just said they had a moment that he felt could not control and just got out of there. After he came home, Dana messaged Phil that he should have come inside the apartment. Phil kept on telling Dana that it was an accident and to forget about it, but Dana kept on asking Phil if he is attracted to her and if he had a good time. Phil told Dana that he is not attracted to her and never will be and told her to not tell me about it. She agreed, and he deleted all the messages. He said that he sat on the sofa because they were messaging each other for a long time, and he did not want to hear it. I asked him if he could retrieve the messages, and he told me he deleted them and also cleaned all his archive and sent messages. He just wanted to forget the incident ever happened. I showed him my post and thanks to a comment, we went to find the messages on the SD card. Phil was right and the messages were the same as what Phil described. I am still very mad at Phil for not telling me about it in first place. This is where it got super weird. I invited Dana for brunch yesterday and met her. I told her that I talked to Phil, and he confessed to everything that happened night during the concert. I asked her I wanted to give her a chance to tell her side of the story. Dana immediately became defensive. The story was the same until they got to her apartment building. Dana said that she opened her apartment door. She gave Phil a long hug for a great evening. She said that could feel Phil wanted more but nothing happened beyond that. I asked her why she invited him inside the apartment. She told me that she wanted to offer him some water and snack as he was driving for a long time. I said that it's a really beach move to invite my husband in her apartment at 1 a.m. at night, when she felt he wanted more from her than a hug. She said that I was just being jealous and crazy. We started arguing and she blurted out that she was not the one popping boners during the hug. I told her she is never going to see Phil again in her life, and our friendship is done. She started shouting that she knows Phil loves her and he does not act on it because of me. She went on about how I am always complaining about Phil and do not deserve him. She said that Phil has been so nice to her after the breakup, and she feels he would leave me for her if he had a chance. She finally said that she could make Phil way happier than I ever could and he has started to realize it now. At this point, I just wanted to avoid a blowout and walked away. I talked to Phil at night and what Dana said. He confirmed to me that he did become aroused when he hugged Dana that night, and he does not know why. Dana held his hand and invited him in after the hug, and he just ran towards his car. He said he feels guilty about it, but it does not mean he has feelings for Dana. He said he is very happy being married to me and would like to keep it that way for the rest of his life. Although I am relieved that nothing happened between them, it has been hard for me to process my thoughts. I feel mad at Phil for hugging Dana in the middle of night when she is barely wearing anything. He should know better. On the other hand, I feel like an on myself that my best friend had a thing for my husband, that I had no clue about and pushed both of them to go to the concert together. Women, what period experience forever changed the course of your life? I found the love of my life while my coin slot was gushing Kool-Aid during my psychology final. My period was so bad that my no-no square had more flow than Kendrick's disses. I had forgotten all the material on my psych final because I couldn't stop thinking about how my cotton stick definitely got lost up there. I studied before and my tears were dropping onto the exam booklet. I was so nervous I could throw up. If I failed this final I'd lose my scholarship. Out of nowhere, a sticky note paper airplane flew next to me with tiny answers to all the multiple choice questions. When I turned to see who threw it at me, it was this 6'5" Nate Jacobs looking man. At the end of the exam, I left confident that I passed and spent my entire afternoon talking to my new man. He made me feel special and smart, and he had a wonderful habit of calming even my most irrational fears, like Nikocado avocado. Even our intimate life was perfect. I always found him incredibly attractive whenever he wore his gray sweatpants. When I realized I didn't have my period for months, I was happy until I realized I could be sentenced to an even worse fate, motherhood. I instantly went to check if I was pregnant, and when I saw the positive sign, my mind went through the TikTok list of reasons not to have kids and sent myself to the heavens. I decided to tell him that night, and what he said completely shifted our relationship. I slid the test over to him, and he looked shocked but excited. He hugged me so tight I thought the baby might burst and croak inside. That's when he dropped a bombshell on me. He's a trust fund baby. He's been rich this entire time and hiding it to blend in with us working class folk. When I asked him why he'd hide this from me, he told me the truth. He wanted to make sure I loved him for him. He took one look at my smile, got on one knee, and said, "I know I don't have a ring, but will you marry me?" It was so soon, but I knew I loved him, so I said yes. We had a small backyard wedding, and I met his family. When I went to shake their hand, they jolted and put hand sanitizer on immediately as if I were dirty. I tried to start a conversation, but they just asked if I signed a prenup yet. When I said I didn't, they started loudly whispering that I was just going to turn their family into GTA club dancers. I tried to tell them that I loved their son for who he was, but they just started creating an entire plan to stop me from turning their mansion into a Heisenberg ad CT den. For weeks after, they started picking on me in every way possible. His mother even started claiming I had swallowed 3 dogs to pose as a pregnant woman. For reference, I'm Asian. His younger sister stalked my social media and commented that my toys must turn soft when they see me. They even tried to call the cops on me for drinking a cup of coffee. When it was time for me to give birth to my baby, they saw me accidentally poop the bed and claimed that it looked just like me. My husband tried to get them to stop, but nothing worked. It didn't help that when I had my baby, I gained a lot of weight during pregnancy, thinking that I could lose it all after childbirth, and I was wrong. Months after giving birth to my son, my body was still swollen and 50 pounds heavier than before. I felt like a prisoner in a shell because my self-esteem had taken a massive hit. My husband tried to get me to cheer up by inviting me on dates and initiating intimacy, but I was just so insecure that I refused to go out, or even let him touch my body. As a result, our intimate life devolved into nothingness. My hair also started thinning out, which made everything worse, and now I was even afraid to look in the mirror. My in-laws even started to notice, and they didn't let it go to waste. They claimed I must have hid babies 2 and 3 in there. I tried to hide in plain sight, and it didn't take long for my husband to begin to notice that I was declining. Every time I looked in the mirror, I started noticing every flaw they pointed out. When they told me they were considering entering me in my 600-pound life to earn some of my own money, instead of brushing them off, I just started tearing up and locking myself in the bathroom. My mother-in-law started sending me bags full of laxatives so that I could get rid of the rest of my baby weight, and she even made it a point to say that I only had a few months left before my husband would leave me for someone skinnier. I started avoiding the mirror, just in case I'd see the stomach they compared to a Big Mac. I started to shut down and started dressing like Adam Sandler. I stopped showering and washing my hair, and I stopped looking at myself entirely. When my husband would try to hold me at night, I would shrink into a little ball and avoid his touch as much as possible. His in-laws drilled the thought that I wasn't good enough for him, and I didn't want to spoil him with my nasty touch. My husband, being the absolute angel on earth that he was, took control of the house. He helped with the baby, helped me cook, and tried his hardest to ease my anxieties, but nothing worked. Eventually, I could tell he started feeling heartbroken when I let his parents' insults affect me so deeply that I would tell him to find someone better than me. He would tell me he wanted no one else but me, but he started drifting away from me, just like his parents said he would. Deep down, I knew he loved me, but I forced us apart, and we seemed more like co-parents than a couple. One day, I was hanging out with my friend in the most ridiculous oversized clothing to hide my overgrown body when she rightfully called me out. She noticed that I wasn't obsessing over my phone to text my husband, and I started to make a million fat jokes a minute. I basically puked out everything that happened since I got pregnant, and she told me that it was natural to feel lost after having a baby. She pulled out pictures from when she gave birth to her son, and she looked about 6'3" wide, which was completely different from the thin girl I know today. She told me that she felt at her lowest when she gave birth, but she used Collagenic Elite pills to help her lose her stubborn baby fat and it came right off. She basically ordered me to get off my butt and stop choosing panic over my life. I went home that day feeling like there was a layer of grease on me and I finally needed hand sanitizer to get rid of my in-laws' grease. So I planned it all out. When my in-laws went on their annual vacation to the Bahamas, I'd make them eat their words, and I'd get to keep my man. When I started out using the Collagenic Elite pills, I noticed my saggy stomach went away first. I lost 3 pounds in the first week and the blessings kept coming, as I lost another 5 the week after. After 3 months, I lost weight faster than Eugenie Cooney, and came out 30 pounds lighter. I looked at myself in the mirror and knew that if I wanted to, I could be a GTA club dancer and succumb to my legacy as a gold digger with how good I was looking. Even though I started off to prove a point to my in-laws, I was happy I started taking the Collagenic Elite pills because I was prettier and felt free. Because the Obby Elite pills had collagen, my hair even started looking silky, and my nails were finally getting long enough to wear those long nails most girls my age were wearing. I started treating myself for once, because before the baby, there was the panic from school, so I decided I deserved it. I started a beauty routine, went to nail appointments, I even got rid of the baggy clothes that made me look like a wannabe SoundCloud rapper. Even my man started noticing the difference, because he started sneaking up on me and whispering how much he missed me. I bagged him from Aura alone, and I was starting to realize that my in-laws were wrong about him. He needed me, and he showed it when he laid in bed and instead of jumping my newly snatched body, he played with my hair and told me how much he loved me. Soon enough, when my in-laws came home, they started threatening to sue me because they thought I stole their Ozempic. My husband and I just laughed at them, while we made plans to go on a date together. He even asked me for my secret and I tried to drag the reveal out for a while, but as soon as I saw his little grin while staring at me, I spilled. He decided to take some collagenic elite as well, and the change in him was insane. He became more fit, which made me want him to carry me with one hand and the other hand holding my newly developed body. My in-laws hated whenever my husband and I came around, because it was clear that we had a new type of glow. By the time my son was 2 years old, any type of insults they threw at me flew straight away. I even mustered the courage to block them and ban them from our house, to which my husband realized was the best decision. There was never going to be an excuse to bring me down again, especially with this new change. I was even thinking of buying my mother-in-law some collagenic elite too, because I'm tired of my steps breaking when she comes over to my house. My stay-at-home dad husband will not keep the kids for an hour when I'm home because he says it's not his responsibility to give me a break, so I checked out of our marriage. I have a full-time job, usually working between 50 to 60 hours a week. My job is not stressful physically, but I'm a high-end manager, so I have a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, and it takes a toll on me. At the beginning of lockdown, my husband stopped working to care for our then 5-month-old and limit his exposure. At the time, we could make it work and knew it was a temporary struggle. When we became pregnant with our second in 2021, I told him I needed him to return to work. Since then, there has always been a reason why he could not, usually boiled down to the kids. He's miserable at home, and I've been begging him to go back to work, even if I need to change my working hours or work remotely more often than I do to accommodate a second shift job for him, that it would help our financial situation and he'd feel better, but there is always a reason why he can't. I work a minimum of 50 hours a week in the office and probably 5 to 10 at home sporadically through night and weekends, but I do my very best to take some of the burden off of him when I get home. I immediately take over with the kids, we play, I make dinner, I handle the bedtime routine, and I get everyone up and fed before I return to work the next day. I'm not perfect by any means and have much to work on, but I try my best. A lot of weekends, James and the kids want to go out and do something as a family, and even though I am far too tired, I usually try to push through for the kids' sake. I battle severe depression, and I've been in a low lately that I believe is caused by burnout. Last weekend it was the anniversary of my mother's passing, and I was feeling a little extra emotional. I was at the end of my rope after work called me asking for help and both kids were throwing separate fits. I snapped. I told James that I just needed an hour where I'm not needed, not as an employee, mom, wife, anything. Whether to play a video game or scroll my phone or take a shower where someone isn't jumping in with me. All I asked for was an hour. James responded to me that it was not his responsibility to give me a break, and I needed to figure that out for myself. I was taken aback and a little offended by this, because I feel like a partnership we should be helping one another, and not figuring it out for ourselves. He responded with, "I'm trying to teach you, no one is just going to give you what you want." Later that evening, my grandmother called to reminisce about my mom, and I was crying. James then told me he hadn't realized what day it was and apologized, so I thought that was that. Fast forward to yesterday. I was called into work for an 11-hour shift on Saturday, so I got a one-day weekend. I wasn't in a much better headspace, and my tipping point started by asking James to go to the store to get diapers before the kids woke up. He refused to get up, putting the responsibility on me, and then proceeding to spend 5 hours nonstop sorting through his magic, the Gathering collection. Sunday is usually our big cleaning day, and I was a bit fed up doing the cleaning and keeping the kids entertained alone. I know it is such a small thing, but in my overstressed and depressed mindset, it was enough to snap a little. I once again asked for an hour, and he once again told me that wasn't his responsibility. I told him he was wrong this time. He then snapped back at me that he's always with the kids and he never gets a break. He called me selfish for asking. I told him about going through his cards for the entire day, and he said that's work and not a break. I then mentioned that every day when I get home, the kids are watching TV and he's playing video games. I have no idea how long he plays before I get home, but I know he continues until I have dinner ready. He said that isn't a break because he doesn't even like video games. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm being unreasonable. I feel crazy because I feel like I'm not asking too much. All I know is I'm so tired of feeling this way. Update. It hasn't gotten better, but I've come to a realization that I've been checked out for a while, and the fights and problems he and I have don't bother me like they used to. I have actual dreams about leaving him, and I want to. I, however, feel trapped. We have 2 cars, both in his name as gifts from his mother. I pay the insurance and tags on my car, a 2016 with 250k miles on it that he ran into the ground driving for Uber for 2 years before COVID, but I have absolutely refused to pay for his newer 2020 car that I begged his mother not to get because I knew I would be stuck with the payments. So both cars are technically his. When we bought our house, it was under a false promise. His mom offered to watch the kids when she retired so James could return to work. This did not happen. She also co-signed for the home with my husband so we could get a better rate. So I also have no ownership of our house. I don't have anywhere to go. My dad has a small basement I could rent, but it adds over 30 minutes to my commute and I do not know what I would do for childcare, other than being unhelpful. He has shoved me, been romantic with me while I slept, and constantly gaslighted me. I'm over it, but I feel stuck. I know it's unhealthy, But to cope, I'll usually have a couple, 2 to 3, beers before bed, and he constantly berates me for being an alcoholic. There's probably more that I'm forgetting, but I'm just emotionally tired and unsure what to do. Update 2. I told him I wanted a divorce. I told him I was done. It obviously didn't go well, and he's trying his usual manipulative tactics of crying and taking steps to change, setting up a psychiatrist appointment to switch his medication, having a job interview lined up, etc. It is very hard and against my nature to not cave now that he's suddenly trying, but I'm staying strong. I'm reminding myself that this has happened before. I'm going to my dad's this weekend so he can see his grandkids, but he just got divorced a few months back, so I plan to talk to him about options and what I need to know. I'm scared as hell because I don't know what I'm going to do about the car, place to stay, kids, etc. But when I told him I thought him trying to have sexual relations with me while I slept because I couldn't say no was grape, and he continued to do it anyway. Or when he went to a club with his friends and expected a pat on the back from me and all of my friends because he didn't get a blow from one of the girls. Or when he started nonchalantly telling people that he shoved me backward onto the couch or on the bed mid-argument to my friends like it was normal. These are the things I'm reminding myself to stay strong during. We live in a 3-bedroom home, so I've made him move into the guest room while I get my ducks in a row.